Stephanie passed away the day before her coronation at the age of 25. The great Emperor Fanny once taught Stephanie that the path to power is built upon the corpses of countless sacrifices. She never expected that one day she would become one of them. If glory could be given a name, its name would be the life of Stephanie. At 5 years old, she became the first heir to the empire because her 3 older brothers had all fallen on the battlefield. At 12 years old, she was recognized by her father emperor, the great Emperor Fanny, who diligently groomed her to be the most outstanding successor. At 25 years old, she independently ruled as regent, just one step away from the throne. At that moment, unwelcoming voices appeared. "This day has finally come. I've had enough of you. Have a taste of what it's like to fall into the abyss. Go to hell, Your Highness the Princess." Stephanie lost the throne. At 25, she was betrayed by everyone. The night before her coronation, she was bled dry to the last drop. The ones who killed her were her brother-in-law, who said, "I protect her, I care for her, unlike you who only knows how to take everything from her," and the innocent younger sister whom she had once wholeheartedly protected. "I was just a pawn for you to use. What she can give me, you could never give," said the lover she had completely trusted. "Aunt, did you know, every time you smiled at me, I wanted to hold you in my arms and cherish you," said the nephew she had diligently taught and cared for. "Drag her down. Throw her to the wild dogs outside the city," said the comrade with whom she once shared her heart. "The swordsmanship I taught tore my body apart. The trust I placed was stabbed straight into my heart. The love I gave pierced my soul. Why? Why treat me like this? I cannot accept this. I am not resigned. If any god can hear my plea, I beg you, give me one more chance. I want to trample all the deceit and betrayal under my feet. I must reclaim everything that belongs to me." A moment later, Sylvia opened her eyes and thought to herself, "This is my heartbeat. Ugh, I'm alive again. Ha 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 ha. Even the gods are on my side, giving me a chance to live again for revenge. I must have my revenge. I will make those who betrayed me kneel at my feet." What's this? Seeing Lucas, Sylvia's 5-year-old brother, shaking a pellet drum in his hand and asking cheerfully, "Sylvia, do you like your big brother?" She couldn't help but wonder to herself what situation she was in. Seeing her just staring blankly at him, Lucas quickly stopped and asked with some concern, "Mom, why isn't my sister reacting to anything?" Wiping her tears, Isabella, Sylvia's mother, sadly blamed herself. "It's all my fault for having her stuck in my womb for too long. Maybe she—" Hearing this, Fernando, Sylvia's father, the richest merchant in the city of Vey and owner of 30% of the empire's gold mines, smiled gently and consoled her. "Don't say that. Even if Sylvia is less intelligent, she is still our most beloved treasure." Lucas quickly clenched his fists and resolutely promised, "I will protect my little sister. I won't let anyone call her a fool." Hearing this, his mother was moved and said, "Such a good boy." Sylvia, hearing them, was furious and shouted, "I am not a fool." But all that came out was, "Wah, wah, ah, ah, ah." Hearing this, they both asked in surprise, "What's wrong? Are you hungry or did you wet your diaper?" Looking up at the ceiling, Sylvia sulkily thought to herself, "Good news. I'm alive again. Bad news. I've been reborn as a helpless newborn baby. Weren't the gods on my side? Why turn me into a useless child like this? New identity after rebirth. Name, Sylvia. Age, 19 days. Identity, daughter of the richest merchant in V, Fernando. Family, a harmonious but naive family. Health, healthy but suspected of having cognitive issues." Life after rebirth passed by extremely slowly. I endured it day after day, year after year. When I was 6 months old, I heard Fernando, my father in this life, say, "The new emperor's coronation brought quite a few tax reductions. We'll have a happy new year this year." This shocked me greatly, and I hurriedly thought to myself, "What? He's ascended the throne? That treacherous man has become the ruler of the empire? Then I squeezed the milk bottle in my hand with all my might, causing it to slowly crack and leak milk. At 3 years old, upon hearing the servants gossiping, I immediately perked up my ears to listen. Princess Erin has finally married Lord Adonis. Erin, Sylvia's younger sister from her previous life. Adonis, her ex-boyfriend. Isn't that so? I heard Lord Adonis's title was also promoted by 1 rank this time. Afterwards, while my brother carefully wiped the food from my face with a cloth, I froze and thought to myself, a promotion? Marriage? What? Why? How can that parasitic fox and that useless freeloader live such good lives? At 5 years old, while my father was talking with a friend, the Liberal Party has won the elections for 4 consecutive years. Grand Duke Wellington is truly not to be underestimated. Even the Emperor is just his puppet, and the Parliament is in his hands. I was sitting aside, idly playing with an ink bottle and thinking sullenly, of course that's the case. That man has always been treacherous. Without me, he would surely... Just then, he saw me drinking from the ink bottle. My father immediately stood up and shouted in panic, "Sylvia, that's ink!" I ignored his words and angrily threw the ink bottle away. Then I slammed my hand on the table, thinking in agony, why, my ex-boyfriend is now famous as can be. My sister from my past life is living a blissfully happy life. My nephew from my past life now rules the world, and my former partner now holds immense power over the nation. Damn it! Why are my enemies rising so successfully one by one while I'm trapped in the body of a child? Seeing me like this, he came over, picked me up, held me in his arms, and with teary eyes encouraged me, "It's okay if your handwriting is bad. You'll always be Daddy's treasure." Hearing that, I immediately declared, "I don't care," and then thought resolutely to myself, "It's all right. I will wait. Wait for the day I can get close to them once again." A few days later, arriving at the manor, someone rang the doorbell and called out loudly, "Sylvia, I'm home from school." Then she quickly ran inside. Then Lucia, Sylvia's cousin, who was currently living with her family, rushed to hug her and said happily, "I missed you so much, Sylvia." Sylvia broke into a sweat and replied awkwardly, "Cousin, you were only at school for a day." Lucia naively explained, "But there's so much to do at school. I have to listen to lectures and chat with Margot. I have very little time to miss you. It's okay if you don't miss me." As she said this, she suddenly had an excited thought. "If Sylvia goes, I'll convince Aunt to let me borrow her luxurious carriage." Then she giggled and continued, "I've told you so many times. Come to school with me. That way we won't have to be apart. There's a gathering at school today. Just come and see. I guarantee you'll want to start school right away." Sylvia couldn't help but think with boredom, who wants to go to school with a bunch of kids to learn things I've known for ages? Then, she said with a deadpan expression, "Not going." Hearing this, Lucia quickly grabbed her hand and pleaded, "Please go, I'm begging you. All the young noble ladies and gentlemen in the city will be there. I heard that young Lord Stuart of the Wellington Duchy will also be attending." Sylvia turned her head in surprise and asked, "Who did you say?" Lucia replied cheerfully, "Stuart Wellington, the youngest son of Grand Duke Wellington. He rarely appears at parties like this." She suddenly gave a faint smile and remarked, "Still this familiar name." She recalled Wellington, her political ally in her past life. A sense of anticipation washed over her as she thought, "I have a feeling. My revenge plan is about to begin." A short while later, as the carriage was taking them to the school for the gathering, Lucia chattered excitedly, "You really should have started attending these gatherings a long time ago. How can you make friends if you stay at home all day? At this age, you should go out and play with others more." Sylvia paid no mind, silently gazing outside and thinking pensively, "Wellington, it's been a while, hasn't it?" Grand Duke Wellington, my former associate, is now the leader of the Liberal Party, the man who manipulates this entire empire and also my most formidable enemy at this moment. He comes from a minor noble family in the border city of Vin, unlike the nobles in the imperial capital who were born with a silver spoon in their mouths. He is seen by the common people as a star of hope for the common class. A star of hope for the common class? He's nothing but a son-in-law who rode on his wife's coattails to gain his first political position. Speaking of which, by the time I died, his and his wife's children were already of school age. Given his wife's age, I doubt she could have any more children. A year before I died, Grand Duke Wellington returned to his hometown of Vin once. After coming back to the imperial capital, he and his wife had a huge fight, reportedly over some affair. His face was bruised for several days. If this is true, then Grand Duke Wellington's illegitimate child was likely born around that time. Fearing his wife's family background, this illegitimate child was raised in his hometown. Even so, this child is the best chess piece for me to get closer to the center of power. Arriving at the gathering, Sylvia immediately asked, "Cousin, didn't you say an important figure would be coming?" The students nearby were cheerfully chatting amongst themselves. "Lady Mago, good afternoon. Your new dress is so beautiful. Who is this red-haired young master today?" Seeing this, she said with disappointment, "It's all familiar faces. There are no important figures here at all." The moment they saw her, they immediately started sneering. "Another one here for young Lord Stuart. I can't believe even a fool would dare to dream of young Lord Stuart." Lucia let out a helpless sigh and said, "Sylvia, you are—" But before she could finish, Mago, 8 years old, her cousin's best friend, daughter of a Ministry of Justice official from Vin, whose aunt is the king's mistress, quickly interjected. Noble gatherings naturally can't lack the presence of the highest-ranking people, but whether those important figures spare some time to attend is another matter entirely. You don't even know this? Hearing this, Sylvia instinctively smirked and thought to herself, a bunch of country bumpkins like you are also trying to play the noble game. Then she suddenly asked in alarm, "Wait, are you saying Stuart isn't coming today?" Then she suddenly collapsed to the ground, head down, thinking angrily. "Stuart isn't coming? Then what am I even doing here? I was too impulsive this time. Being a child for so long has made me a bit impatient." Meanwhile, Mago asked petulantly, "Why don't you understand anything?" Lucia quickly came to her defense. "Don't blame her. She's just a little girl who has never left Vin. Never mind Sylvia. Even we can't compare to someone as experienced as you, Lady Magot." As Sylvia slowly got up, she sighed in disappointment and thought, "Maybe I should just go home." Just as she was about to leave, she suddenly heard someone ask, "I heard Lady Magot has been to the Imperial Palace. Is that true?" This made her stop in surprise and think, "Wait, the Imperial Palace. This girl has connections to the Imperial Palace." She confirmed with a faint smile, "Of course. The scenery in the Imperial Palace can't be compared to a small place like Vin. Every step, every view is incredibly exquisite." A girl with blonde hair exclaimed in awe, "How wonderful!" Lucia couldn't hide her admiration and gushed, "I wish I could see it too." Hearing this, Sylvia thought with disgust, "I thought there would be some political news, but it turns out they're just discussing the scenery. A bunch of low-ranking nobles, barely better than commoners. The best among them is just the niece of the king's mistress. What do you people know? It's a good thing I've been pretending to be a fool, otherwise I'd have to play along with this bunch of bragging kids." Just as Sylvia finished her thought, Mago happened to prattle on to the topic. "It's not just the scenery. The Imperial Palace even has many legends, for example, the legend of a Naga in the Enno Palace." The black-haired girl heard this, covered her mouth, and asked with wide, astonished eyes, "A Naga? I've heard an adult talk about it." The blonde-haired girl, terrified, recounted, "Adults outside say that lake is very scary. Princess Stephanie committed suicide there, and she swims there every night." Lucia quickly added, "They say if you chant 3 times, 'Your Highness, Princess Stephanie, I am willing to offer my soul to you,' over your own pond." Respected Highness, Princess Stephanie, please grant my wish. I am willing to offer my soul to you. Hearing this, Sylvia couldn't help but frown in frustration and think, I'm not that boring. What are these little brats talking about? Is this what common folk say about me? So brainless. In my past life, I was proud. I never admitted defeat. I would never do something as weak as committing suicide. Lucia suddenly asked curiously, why did Princess Stephanie commit suicide? Mago replied with an indifferent laugh. Wasn't it because she wanted to steal Princess Erin's fiancé? Unfortunately, Lord Adonis disliked her personality and rejected her in front of everyone. She got angry and killed herself in the lake. Sylvia immediately retorted, nonsense. Adonis was originally Princess Stephanie's fiancé. The one who stole him was Erin, not Stephanie. Besides, the type of handsome man Princess Stephanie truly liked was not a pretty boy like Adonis, whom Princess Erin fancied. Liu, Princess Stephanie's subordinate. Back then, if I hadn't been deceived by Adonis's flowery words, would I have fallen for that weakling who couldn't even tie up a chicken? Adonis, Stephanie's ex-boyfriend, and Princess Stephanie would never have committed suicide at Lake Anaga. Mago quickly shouted back, You're refuting me, but you've never even been there, Sylvia retorted with a sneer. The water in Lake Anaga only comes up to an adult's waist. Do you think Princess Stephanie was as short as you? How could she drown there? More importantly, Princess Stephanie didn't drown. The drowning was just a cover-up. Seeing her argue so stubbornly and suddenly shout like a fool, the group was stunned and stared at her blankly for a moment. Seeing this, she couldn't help but worry and think, oh no, did I say too much? However, based on my experience of being a child these past few years, my only choice now is to play dumb to get by. Then she quickly giggled and explained, why did I say that? It's actually because... Before Sylvia could finish her sentence, a carriage suddenly approached and stopped. Immediately after, a young boy in red stepped out and unexpectedly shouted, Silence! Then he suddenly drew his sword, pointed it straight at her face, and questioned loudly, You. How do you know? How does a merchant's daughter know about matters of the imperial palace? Upon seeing the young boy's face, Lucia immediately turned pale and called out fearfully, Young Lord Stuart. So it really was Stuart, the youngest son of Duke Wellington, the son of Princess Stephanie's #1 enemy. Looking back and forth between them, Lucia pleaded in a panic. I'm sorry, young Lord Stuart, she has issues. She can't distinguish between reality and imagination. Sylvia, shut your mouth now. I'm so sorry. Sylvia's eyes widened as she stared at him intently, thinking to herself, So this is Stuart, Wellington's son. He asked coldly, I'm questioning her. Is it your turn to answer? Speak. Why would the daughter of an ordinary merchant in the city of Veo know about Lake Anaga in the imperial palace? She didn't answer, but smirked and thought, This kid is sharp. Unfortunately for him, the one he's met is me. He quickly frowned and speculated, Could you be... Then immediately continued in his thoughts. An admirer of Princess Stephanie? No, that's not right. Princess Stephanie's reputation is so notorious. Who would admire her? Hearing this, she was slightly startled and thought, Why would he ask that? Could he have heard something from Wellington? No, I have to trick this kid and get past this. In her previous life, Stephanie was a politician at the pinnacle of power. Politicians are all natural-born actors. Even someone as cunning as Duke Wellington was once defeated by Princess Stephanie. How could a mere teenager like him extract the truth from the mouth of a reincarnated demoness? Time to start the performance, Sylvia thought. She then pretended to shed tears and stammered, Princess, you... How did you know this? I can't say it. Seeing this, Stuart was a bit swayed and thought, could she really have a connection to Princess Stephanie? No. How could a nouveau riche from the city of Veo have anything to do with Princess Stephanie? Beckoning him to come closer, she said with a pitiful act, I'll tell you. Then she suddenly broke into a wide grin. Then she petulantly shouted, "My mother said that I am the most adorable princess. My mother also said that besides her, the person who sees me as a princess is the one who will marry me." "Are you going to marry me?" Although he was a bit angry at Sylvia's sudden proposal, Stuart couldn't help but blush in embarrassment and explained softly, "This isn't something you and I can decide." Seeing this scene, the noble young ladies were stunned and started gossiping. A fool's courage is truly great, daring to tease Stuart like that. "Who decides? Don't you see me as a princess? Why don't you want to marry me? Was my mother wrong?" Ha ha ha. Stuart will probably regret this for a whole month. It's mainly because she's a fool. Stuart can't be bothered with her. Ha 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 ha. Grabbing Stuart's hand, Sylvia pleaded, "Don't go. Talk to me. Is the Imperial Palace like I said it was? Tell me." He irritably shook her hand off, walked away, and demanded loudly, "That's enough." Then he thought with some doubt, "Why did I suspect a fool like her? I must have lost my mind." Then he reminded her loudly, "I'm about to enroll in VO Academy. I don't have time to play house with a fool like you." She asked blankly, "VO Academy?" Walking past her, he asserted confidently, "That's right, a place you'll never get into in your entire life." She didn't reply, but stood there smiling gleefully and thinking, "Actually, I never thought about it, but you're there. After 6 years, I've finally found the breakthrough I couldn't reach. A breakthrough from this small body and this remote city. The opportunity to get close to my enemies in the city of Veo has also been found." With this thought, Sylvia quickly lifted her dress, ran after Stuart, and called out with a bright smile, "Stuart?" Then she thought with great excitement, "No matter how well guarded Wellington is, he would never expect me to infiltrate through his closest kin, to worm my way to his side. As long as I can get close to Stuart, I will have a chance to reach the heart of the imperial capital's nobility, to reach my enemies." He turned his head back irritably and asked, "What else do you want?" Then he couldn't help but think in annoyance, "Why did I get stuck with a fool like this? Such bad luck." She answered with a bright smile, "I want to go to school with you." Then she resolved in her mind, "To get close to this boy, I've decided to go to the academy with him." The next day, at the enrollment registration point of VO Academy, Sylvia's parents said sorrowfully, "Oh my treasure, why do you have to go to school so early?" "Do you really have to come here? You have to study here for 10 years. If you don't like it, can't Daddy find you a tutor?" Handing her things, Lucas said with great sorrow, "Take this. This is your uniform and name tag. The number on the name tag is your dorm number. After buying your personal belongings, you can go there." She calmly took them and replied politely, "Thank you." He asked expectantly, "Sylvia, don't you want to stay with me?" Lucia quickly added, "Think it over. Although I really want you to come, you can't bring servants here. It's not too late to drop out." She shouted furiously, "Are you all done yet?" Then she thought to herself, "Wire Noble Academy, the only school truly worthy of the name. The academy has 1,500 students, and each year 45 students get to go to the Imperial Capital Academy for an exchange program. This exchange opportunity is the path to get close to Wellington, so he will definitely be there. If that's the case, how could I not come? However, to get this opportunity, you need not only outstanding achievements, but also..." At that moment, someone suddenly asked in surprise, "Do we have to buy this?" The dorm manager replied coldly, "Caroline, room 2011. Supplies cost 5 gold coins for the school's specially made bedding and daily necessities." Seeing this, Sylvia was a little surprised and thought, "My roommate?" She asked in a low voice, "I've already prepared these things. Do I really have to buy them?" The woman replied irritably, "It's a school-wide rule. Why should you be an exception?" Other students nearby saw this and sneered, "She looks like a poor country bumpkin. What's the point of studying if she can't even afford this? Her family went bankrupt long ago. Shoving their daughter into the academy, they must be planning to fish for a gold mine. Stay away from her. Poverty is contagious. Just then, someone suddenly threw a pile of gold coins in front of the woman. Then she calmly walked up and requested, "Give me 2 of the best sets. I want to use the uniform items in the dorm. Otherwise, mismatched things will hurt my eyes." Caroline called out in astonishment, "You!" Winking at her, Sylvia explained calmly, "You're in room 2011, right? It's best to be obedient and use this." Moved, she replied, "Okay." Waving goodbye to her family, she calmly said, "Silly parents, brother, I'm off. Don't worry." The 3 of them replied in unison, choked with emotion, "Take care of yourself. We'll be waiting for you at home." Caroline introduced herself cheerfully. "My name is Caroline. What's yours? Thank you for helping me out back there." Sylvia pretended to be cold and replied, "I didn't help you. I just like things to be uniform." Seeing this, Fernando said with great emotion, "On the very first day, Sylvia has already made a friend." Isabella affirmed, choked up, "Our girl truly is a little angel." At the same time, as they walked, Caroline couldn't help but confess with low self-esteem, "I made a fool of myself back there. A bankrupt noble like me is an outcast in this school. Nobody wants to be around me." Hearing this, Sylvia immediately retorted, "Outcast? People with low IQ are the real outcasts of humanity." Hearing this, Caroline couldn't help but burst out laughing. "Ha ha ha ha, you talk just like a grown-up." But don't say what you just said to others. Most of the students at Weir Academy are nobles. Moreover, they are from direct bloodlines of at least 2 generations of legitimate nobility. Only a small portion are commoners or daughters of the nouveau riche with good grades. The entire academy's noble crowd. Others are just ants in the shadow of the nobility. You must absolutely not provoke them. And the nouveau riche and commoners are the main targets for the nobles to pick on. She commented calmly, "But an academy is inherently full of competition. If I don't provoke them, they'll target me sooner or later anyway." Caroline immediately added, "There's competition. You can't escape the contests. But people only fight it out in the contests. They aren't nobles who challenge you in daily life." Sylvia immediately asked, "What are these contests?" Caroline immediately explained, "The academy organizes various contests. The winner can get a badge. Only by accumulating enough badges do you get a chance to go on the exchange program to the Imperial Capital Academy. Therefore, the competition for badges disregards social status." Hearing this, Sylvia quickly imagined a scene of a crowd of students fighting over a badge. Right before her eyes, a group of people was suddenly scrambling for something. So she quickly asked, "Is that it? Are they all participating in a contest?" Hurriedly pulling her closer to get a look, Caroline explained with a smile, "Perfect timing. This is the annual contest for new students. I heard this is the best badge. Let's go give it a try too." Caroline pulled Sylvia to the front and whined like any other child, "Please give us a registration card. We want to sign up too." In the end, they each got a piece of paper. Caroline patiently instructed her, "Just write the names of the 2 competitors here and submit it to participate. How about we have a match first?" Sylvia's eyes widened in disbelief. They're competing over this? Inside the room, everyone jumped at the new arrival. Sylvia also looked up to see what was happening. "It's Stuart?" Seeing the person standing outside the door, Caroline got scared and pulled her back. "Ah, let's get out of the way. Don't block his path. That's Lord Stuart." As he looked inside, he saw Sylvia standing right in the middle of the room, looking bewildered. He stared at her and wondered, why is this foolish girl here too? This terrified Caroline, who kept pulling her back. Why is he staring at us? Stuart thought for a moment, then scowled. Looks like she paid her way in here. Saying that, he reached out and snatched her registration paper, muttering disdainfully, "You want to participate in the welcoming match for new students too?" In his mind, he always saw Sylvia as weak. A fool like her went to all the trouble to get in here, so she deserves to become a stepping stone for real geniuses. He stood before everyone in the room and announced, "Then let me be your opponent." Naturally, murmurs erupted from the crowd. Lord Stuart wants to compete against that fool? She's doomed. Just wait to be utterly defeated. Sylvia's eyes widened in surprise. Huh? What is that bastard child trying to do? He showed up at just the right time. Saves me the trouble of looking for him. Just as her train of thought ended, Stuart leaned forward and said something only the two of them could hear. Don't think this is unfair to you. My goal is just the bronze badge. A good hunter never complains that the prey is too weak. While he was gloating, Sylvia murmured, "Prey, you say? If this were my past life, I would definitely have refused to be seen as prey and would have demanded a fair fight. But now I just want to pretend to be the prey so that arrogant hunter falls into my trap." An entire plan had already formed in her mind. Thinking of herself as the rabbit, she was filled with excitement. All right, you're the one who invited me. How could I possibly refuse? The match between Stuart and Sylvia officially began. Veo Academy, the welcome chess match for new students. He looked at her with contempt and mockery. The courage to rush into a fight against the weak is just foolishness. This is the first lesson I'll teach you. Sylvia just sneered. The weak? If I wish it, the person standing opposite me is the truly weak one. Because this match is chess, the game that Grand Princess Stephanie of the Elodie Empire was best at. Victory and defeat are in my hands. The two were now seated at the board, watched by many students. The competition is international chess. Young Lord Stuart is white, Lady Sylvia is black. Best 2 out of 3. Caroline was explaining the rules to her. Sylvia, you have to win at least one game, or the loss will be too embarrassing. Sylvia still acted innocent, picking up a chess piece to play with, while deep down, her calculations ran deep. A great hunter always appears in the guise of prey. On both sides of him, people were chattering about her. Think carefully. Too bad she's like the piece she's holding, the most useless. Don't say that. This might be her first time playing chess. As long as Sylvia thinks she can win the badge from me, I'll have a better chance to switch the roles of hunter and prey and help this Grand Duke's son get closer to Wellington. Hearing them, Sylvia propped her chin and smiled brightly. How is a pawn useless? It can stand on the board. Look, neither of you can. His face turned green. Is she mocking us? Hearing the argument about to escalate, Stuart ordered, "Don't waste any more time." He waved his hand irritably. Don't forget we just need to get the badge. Wasting time on the prey is not what a good hunter does. Nizio, standing between them, announced, "First round, begin." Your confidence, little boy, is my prey today. Go ahead and take the badge I'm letting you have. Sylvia threw herself into the game, naively capturing pieces. Look, I'll eat you, causing Caroline behind her to worry frantically. Wait. The pawn is worth the least points. Don't rush to capture now. Stuart calmly made his moves, letting her fall into the trap he set. She even put on an air of superiority, pretending to be deep in thought. Sylvia's pieces were gradually pushed away. I'll move this one too, farther than you. Caroline was horrified, grabbing her and wailing. This isn't a game of who can move farther. In the end, Stuart won the first game after just a few moves. Checkmate. Her roommate sighed in despair. She lost so quickly. The teacher standing nearby was also surprised. To checkmate with the knight. As long as the black king is trapped like that. Next, no matter where the black king moves, it will be checked by a white piece. Stuart grumbled at the surrounding chatter. Less talk. Start the second round. To the side, some boys with blue and purple hair were bad-mouthing her audibly. That's right. What knight checkmate? This fool can't even understand it. It was all part of her plan. This little boy is starting to take the bait, as long as I lose the second game to him too, so he gets the badge. The teacher signaled, second round, begin. Sylvia put on a dangerous look. "Look at my chess pieces. I'll definitely beat you this time," she said, placing a piece on the board. He smugly pointed it out to the judge. "Teacher, that's against the rules, isn't it?" The man pushed up his glasses, examined it, and nodded. "Lady Sylvia has made an illegal move. Young Lord Stuart wins this round." She sighed dramatically and slumped over the table. "I lost again. Can you teach me how to win?" The two boys behind him laughed as if they'd won the lottery. "Ha ha, treating a rook like a castle. What a fool. If you ask me, there's no need to compete. Just hand over the badge. How could Lord Stuart lose to a fool?" Stuart replied curtly. "Sorry, I don't want to embarrass my chess teacher." Hearing this, the boy next to him bragged, "Do you know who Lord Stuart's teacher is? It's Her Highness Aaron, one of the top masters in the Empire." Sylvia was a bit stunned, pausing for a few seconds. "Aaron? Chess?" She remembered the friendly matches she had with her before her rebirth. Chess is just like statecraft, a game of back and forth. Aaron slowly chewed a piece of candy. Then she smiled at her and replied softly, "I just need to follow my big sister's coattails. I don't need any of that chess and statecraft nonsense." She sneered. "That's right. I was the one who personally taught her chess, my dear sister Erin." The more they relied on their status, the more arrogantly they mocked her. If they say you're a fool, you really are a fool. Do you lowly merchants deserve to learn Her Highness's art? You're not worthy to even kiss the ground beneath Princess Erin's feet. You'd be better off going home and kneeling before Her Highness's portrait to pray. Maybe it'll make you a little smarter." Sylvia couldn't be bothered. Sylvia dropped her innocent act, giving them a disdainful smirk. As for Erin, pray to her, is she even worthy? How dare she show off something she stole? Caroline's heart leaped into her throat. "Via, don't say any more. We can't afford to anger them. It wouldn't be good if we were accused of disrespecting the royal family." Suddenly, her eyes froze for a few seconds. On the other side, Stuart began to criticize. "Your friend is right. I remember now. Isn't this the daughter of the Phoenix family? I heard that after the Liu incident, more than half of their servants ran away. It must not have been easy to squeeze into a noble school." Those young masters started talking loudly, spreading malicious gossip. "Say no more. Their family has been begging everyone. Last month, they even came to my house. Ahem, the gifts they brought were so cheap even my butler turned his nose up at them." The purple-haired boy looked at the two of them with contempt. "How can they still have the face to show up outside? If it were me, I would have died of shame at home long ago. No wonder she can hang out with a merchant's fool." Having lived 2 lives, Sylvia was unfazed by such words. In 2 lifetimes, she had seen more and more fools who Deile proclaimed themselves. But Caroline was different. The little girl trembled with fear, hiding behind her. They still wouldn't stop mocking others. "One fool, one bankrupt young lady. Haha, and you want to challenge our Stuart family? In your next life, maybe." Sylvia sneered. "Next life? Why not now?" Suddenly she shot up, her hand gripping Caroline's arm tightly. Then she announced defiantly in front of everyone, "I've changed my mind. The badge must be mine." The golden-haired boy shouted, "Do you think this is a game? This is an academy competition." Stuart just asked Sylvia 4 simple words. "You regret it now?" She smiled and proposed an idea. "In the 3rd round, if I win, the badge is mine. Lord Stuart is so formidable, you wouldn't dare to play a 3rd round with me, would you?" His eyes showed a hint of surprise as he looked at her differently, but the crowd behind him didn't get the hint and still urged him on. "Ignore her. Best 2 out of 3. What's the point of regretting it now?" "Right, best 2 out of 3. Lord Stuart has already won. Ignore that fool." Sylvia moved closer to him, her voice clear and crisp. "I don't regret it. I just want to see if you dare to make a big bet. A pity that Aaron's disciple is just a coward." Hearing this, he scowled in annoyance, crossing his legs. "I just don't want to waste my time." She had to use her trump card. Oh, I know. You're afraid that if you lose, you'll bring shame upon the Wellington family, right? It immediately provoked him successfully. I won't lose to you. Sylvia had achieved her goal. She flashed a bright smile. Then let the third round begin. The teacher announced the start time. This time she began to play with her true strength. Stuart, still unaware of the painful slap that was about to hit him, said, You've lost your strongest piece and you still want to bet? This dream of an egg hitting a rock is something you commoners often do. Sylvia propped her chin, considering. The strongest piece? She stared intently at the board, wondering, what is the strongest piece? It was my identity in my past life. It was my status in my past life. Yes, I lost it. But I am not resigned. Sylvia gritted her teeth and muttered, I bet that you, Stuart Wellington, will lose this third game. If I win, the badge is mine. If I lose, every badge I get from now on will be given to Stuart. Then, in her excitement, she turned to the teacher. Sir, is that allowed? Stuart just found it tedious. It seems you really are a hopeless fool. Sylvia smiled and gave him some advice. Stuart, today I'll teach you a lesson in life. Don't run your mouth before you're sure of something, or else losing will be even more embarrassing. Stuart, of course, looked disdainful. Just a fool. This is just mad talk. How can you beat me when you don't even know the rules? Since she's offering to give me all her future badges, I won't refuse. After a moment's thought, he agreed. Fine. If you want to overestimate yourself, let's bet. Teacher Nizio also nodded in agreement with the two contestants. Both sides agree. The pact is sealed. Sylvia turned to leave, leaving behind a single sentence that made him curious. It's too late for you to regret it now. The game began. She bluntly shattered all of Stuart's strategies. Just like Stephanie used to do. He suddenly felt a sense of dread over the chessboard. How can this be? Why does she suddenly have such a killer instinct? A pawn at the end of the board will change. At this moment, Sylvia smiled. Your king is already in my queen's grasp. It was all part of her plan, every move. By the time he vaguely realized it, it was too late. From the beginning, she planned to promote a pawn to a queen, and then use that opportunity to kill my king. He muttered with a scowl. Everything she did was to make me underestimate her pawn that had reached the end of the board, which could be exchanged for a queen, the most powerful attacking piece. Who said a small pawn is useless? Sylvia turned the tables in just a few seconds, questioning him back. How do you know she isn't a hidden queen? Sylvia smiled and turned to Caroline. Go on, get the badge. The girl beside her couldn't stop gushing. You actually won the badge. You're amazing. All three of them were stunned. In just a few seconds, that foolish girl had turned the tables in a strange way. Impossible. How did that fool suddenly become so sharp? It must be luck, a coincidence. Just as she was about to turn and leave, Stuart shouted, forcing them to stay. Stop! So that was your true face just now. He was beginning to realize it had all been an act. Her foolish behavior in front of me? Could it be that she was deliberately acting for me to see? Sylvia didn't give him an answer, only speaking cryptically. You guess. Stuart, of course, refused to admit defeat and angrily scheduled a rematch. I'll leave this badge with you for now. Sooner or later, I'll come back to get it from you. She just waved her hand, not paying him any mind. I'll be waiting. Caroline now held her hand tightly, her eyes shining with fascination. Oh my God, you were so cool just now. Even Stuart couldn't beat you. Sylvia giggled. Beating him is easy. As soon as the words left her mouth, she remembered her original plan. Wait, wasn't I supposed to be pretending to win that little brat's trust? Now I've dug my own grave. The hunter has buried herself. I'm such a failed hunter. Her heart was burning with anxiety, and she screamed internally. What do I do about this situation now? She glanced back at the young master who was fuming with anger over there. How dare you pretend to be a fool to trick me? I hate you! Sylvia had to find an excuse for herself, eavesdropping on their conversation. My lord must have been careless for a moment. He'll win it back soon. That fool must have used some trick to win. It must be. She had to ask her roommate for advice. Caroline, in your opinion, if I return the badge to the little noble master now, can I undo his grudge against me? He looks really angry now. Sylvia still clearly remembered her brother's warning. Lord Stuart holds grudges. Even though we had a reason, you still beat him, Caroline stated. For the sake of her lifelong plan, she reluctantly turned back. Haha, is that so? Caroline, walking behind, also supported the idea. Maybe you should go apologize to him. Well, is it too late to ask for mercy now? Seeing her return, Stuart's face was full of contempt. Are you here to mock me? He was obviously annoyed, having already taken the badge. Yet she lingered, wanting to say something but hesitating. In her mind, Sylvia clearly remembered his arrogant and conceited image. Right, this guy would rather bear the reputation of bullying the weak just to compete with me. He must have really wanted that badge, and I beat him in front of everyone. I'm done for this time. She didn't know what to say. He turned away, refusing to even look at her, making her panic and scream internally. Quick, think of an excuse to comfort this kid. Suddenly, someone called his name loudly. Young Lord Stuart. The person hurried over to report, Young Lord Stuart, someone from the imperial capital has arrived. His eyes lit up as he looked up. Really? He glanced over at Sylvia resentfully. I will definitely get back at you for today's humiliation. Hearing the words, someone from the imperial capital, Sylvia clung to Stuart relentlessly. What? What did you say? The illegitimate son Stuart could only have contact with people from the imperial capital through his thick-skinned, black-hearted father. His father was also her mortal enemy. Wellington. Am I finally about to meet him? Long time no see. Stuart rushed to the mansion upon hearing the news, but the person who arrived was not the one he had hoped for. Young Lord Stuart, we've come to bring you some things. Benson was the one in the lead. He glanced at the boy, his expression arrogant and full of contempt. Still as shabby as ever. Being stared at by 6 pairs of eyes made him feel awkward. This! Isn't Father here? She peeked through the crack in the door with a complicated feeling. So it's not Wellington. He won't even visit his own son? Stuart was still hopeful, his eyes scanning around. Hasn't Father arrived yet? The man clasped his hands behind his back and criticized the place. The Grand Duke is overwhelmed with 1,000 duties. How could he have time to come to this remote place? Young Lord Stuart is not a child. Surely he doesn't still need to cry and demand his father be by his side. He clenched his fists, looking frustrated, but could only suppress his feelings and say the opposite of what he meant. Of course not. Even if Father came, I would ask him to return to the imperial capital. Sylvia pursed her lips. To think they'd use this kind of reverse psychology to trick a child. The lily is the emblem of Duchess Wellington's maternal family. The Duchess's maternal family is very powerful. These stewards are probably people from her family. To have the Duchess's maternal stewards bring things to his illegitimate son, it seems Wellington doesn't value this illegitimate son much. Duchess Wellington and the illegitimate son being enemies is only natural. The Duchess's power is enough to easily crush this illegitimate son. Therefore, Wellington can only be a hidden father, abandoning his son to maintain the fragile balance of his family. Stuart, Sylvia muttered, calculating the pros and cons of this situation. Once the balance is broken, and Wellington loses the support of his wife's family, Duchess Wellington, let me help this poor boy Stuart break this so-called balance. I wonder, when faced with his wife and son, who will Wellington choose? A thrilling scene of power struggle flashed in her mind. It would be so much more interesting to let Grand Duchess Wellington and her illegitimate son fight to the death. What are you doing here? An arm grabbed her by the collar and lifted her up. Leo frowned at the small girl who had appeared before the ajar door of the room. This man's back was muscular, and there was a sword at his hip. Sylvia, in a weak position, could only struggle in despair. "Let me go. Even if you have a nice body, you can't just lift me up like this." She raised her head and pleaded with him, but the face of the person in front of her made her gasp. "This familiar face is Leo." He slowly put her down. Then he knelt down, puzzled. "How do you know my name?" She stared at him, speechless, unable to say what was in her heart. "Of course I know. You once swore to shed your last drop of blood for me, to offer me all your loyalty. How could I forget your name? My most loyal knight, the first one I've met again after my rebirth. Leo." She reached out her hand to him. Leo looked up, a hint of surprise on his face. "What?" Hearing that, Sylvia felt a bit guilty and replied, "Lord Leo is the Empire's #1 knight. Who wouldn't know of you?" Leo knelt on one knee, looking down at Sylvia and reminding her, "You know quite a lot, but now I'm just the captain of the guard at W Academy. Don't mention that #1 knight business anymore." Sylvia was surprised and blurted out, "What? How could that be?" She raised her voice to express her indignation. "You have performed so many meritorious deeds for the Empire, 9 glorious achievements. How could they send you to a remote town to be a guard captain for an academy?" Leo placed a hand on her head, his gentle gaze seeming to comfort her. "This is my business. Children shouldn't ask so many questions." But Sylvia snapped back irritably, "Don't try to fool me with those words." Hearing that, Leo replied with a bit of contemplation and helplessness, "Failing to protect that person, it doesn't matter where I am. It's better to go along with them and get away from that filthy place." Seeing Leo's dejected expression, Sylvia suddenly realized, "Is it because of me?" Sylvia thought to herself, "That's right. After I died, they certainly wouldn't spare those close to me. Even though he once led the Eagle Knights to recapture 3 cities for the Empire, they would still banish him to this godforsaken place. How foolish and shameless. My enemies are all getting promotions now. As for me and those close to me," thinking of this, Sylvia sighed in frustration. "You were demoted and exiled while I died a wrongful death." The more she thought about it, the angrier she became. Why are the people by my side living such miserable lives? Sylvia could only sigh in frustration. "Forget it, I'll think of a way." Hearing that, Leo asked curiously, "What did you say?" Realizing she had almost been exposed, Sylvia pretended to ignore his question and look away. Then she made an excuse to sneak away. "Guard captain until we meet again." This left Leo bewildered, not understanding what was happening. But Sylvia was quickly caught by Leo. He grabbed her by the shoulder and called out, "Wait! Stop!" Running around and even daring to sneak into the headmaster's office. As a student of W Academy, how can you be so ill-mannered? This is completely improper. Being scolded at, Sylvia stammered, What are you going to do?" With an angry face, Leo pointed at Sylvia and ordered, "In the name of the guard captain, I sentence you to clean the Academy's flower garden. I will inspect it tonight." At this, Sylvia immediately recoiled. "No, how could you?" Suddenly, Stuart appeared out of nowhere. He shouted angrily, "Who's making all this noise?" Sylvia and Stuart's eyes met unexpectedly. Stuart immediately went into hostile mode, gritting his teeth and blaming Sylvia. "It's you again? Why are you here? Were you eavesdropping on my conversation just now and got caught by the guard?" Sylvia quickly explained. "No, please let me explain." She blamed herself in regret. "This is bad. I was so focused on dealing with Leo that I was caught eavesdropping." Sylvia used the most sincere look she could muster to salvage the situation. "I was just passing by coincidentally. I didn't mean to eavesdrop on your conversation." But Stuart was very tense and grabbed Sylvia's hand to question her. "How much did you hear?" Stuart thought anxiously. Could this fool have seen my pathetic state just now? Sylvia was very surprised by his over-the-top reaction. His reaction is so intense. During the tense moment, Leo suddenly used his sword to separate the two. He looked down with a stern expression. Violence is forbidden in the academy. Moreover, she is a lady. Laying a hand on the weak is a despicable act. Seeing this, Sylvia silently praised Leo. "Ah, Leo, you're as strict as ever." Seeing Sylvia's admiring look, Stuart frowned in annoyance. Look at that smug face. Did she find Lord Leo to be her backer? So Stuart immediately stepped back. He bowed his head and admitted his fault. I'm sorry, it was my oversight. Witnessing this, Sylvia looked at Stuart with suspicion. Why is this kid being so obedient? Has he had a change of heart? Stuart suddenly smiled with a hidden meaning. Then he spoke in a mocking tone. Who would have thought that someone not even 3 feet tall? With a waist like a wooden wine barrel at a festival. Daydreaming all day, drooling. As he spoke, he intentionally glanced at Sylvia with a mocking smile and continued, calling herself a princess, and a fool who likes to eavesdrop. Could she be considered a lady? Suddenly being labeled with all sorts of tags like shorty, drooling fool, and wine barrel, Sylvia was truly angered. He's talking about me. Stubborn people like this need to be taught a good lesson. So Sylvia looked at Stuart with teary eyes, her face sad as she began to act. Seeing her pitiful expression, Stuart felt a little guilty and thought, did I go too far? This kid looks genuinely sad. But she was eavesdropping, that's a fact. But in the end, he still decided to teach Sylvia a lesson. Stuart bowed respectfully and suggested to Leo, if the light of justice and fairness truly shines upon you, Sir Leo, you must punish this habitual eavesdropper. On the other side, Sylvia covered her face, pretending to cry sadly, but she actually had her own thoughts. If this is the Leo I know best. He definitely won't let Stuart, that sharp-tongued brat, get away with it. And just as Sylvia predicted, in response to Stuart's suggestion, Leo not only didn't agree but instead questioned him. Using harsh words to hurt a fellow student, to hurt a lady, do you think justice and fairness are really on your side? Then he frowned and sternly ordered, insulting words, attacking a fellow student. Ah, as the Academy's guard captain, I order you to clean the Academy's flower garden. I will inspect it tonight. Hearing this, Stuart could only cry out in frustration. What? On the other side, Sylvia covered her mouth and giggled, looking at the shocked and frozen Stuart. She thought gleefully, serves you right for trying to drag me down with you. Good for you. But her happiness was short-lived. Leo suddenly turned and punished Sylvia as well. Eavesdropping is just as shameful. You must go clean up too. This time it was Sylvia's turn to be shocked. What? Seeing this, Stuart thought with delight, don't think you can escape either. At this moment, Stuart reminded himself, after all, he is the #1 knight of the Empire. I can't leave a bad impression on him. Thinking this, he said seriously, yes, I will seriously reflect on my actions and clean the flower garden. Then he walked away stiffly. Seeing this, Sylvia sneered inwardly. This foolish kid is definitely trying to curry favor with Leo, wanting to be a model student to get a high evaluation from Wellington. Dream on. While she was busy mocking Stuart, Leo suddenly crouched down and ordered in a cold voice, My lady, you should go and clean up too. As soon as he finished speaking, Sylvia unexpectedly patted his shoulder. She looked at Leo with a gentle gaze, her hand on his shoulder as she praised him. Leo, well done. Sharp-tongued people like that, children like that, need to be punished. Leo looked thoughtfully at the small hand resting on his shoulder, perhaps remembering something. Leo suddenly wondered what victory meant to people. Then a memory surfaced in his mind. The goddess in his heart had said, Leo, this battle, thanks to you killing the enemy general and saving the situation, Otherwise, if the city had fallen, I would have lost the people's support and a huge amount of tax revenue. At that time, I would definitely have been targeted by the old wolves in the capital. Those words made Leo unable to stop thinking. But for me, victory was nothing more than her deep blue eyes reflecting only my image. It was nothing more than her gentle voice flowing only into my ears. It was nothing more than my goddess, finally descending from the high clouds, bestowing a gentle ray of light upon a lowly person like me. Victory was nothing more than a habitual sign, her fingers lightly touching my shoulder. He still remembered her gentle eyes, her sweet and enchanting voice. What do you want? Money? Or a title? Or women? I can grant you anything. At that time, Leo was completely immersed in her noble beauty. He hesitated and replied, "The reward I want is..." Recalling that memory, Leo blamed himself even more. I am so despicable, so greedy, so shameful. But I still hope my goddess will grant me her eternal attention. What I want is something I can never reach. Just saying it out loud is a defilement. Leo stared blankly at Sylvia, his heart in turmoil. What I really want is... Then he whispered to himself, "Princess Stephanie, could it be that you left behind some bloodline?" Sylvia asked in surprise. What? After hearing her voice, Leo began to come back to his senses. Leo quickly composed himself. Damn it, what am I thinking? Princess Stephanie has... So he quickly stood up and coldly reminded Sylvia, "It's nothing. Go clean the garden now." Seeing this, Sylvia replied, "All right, I know." Watching Sylvia's retreating back, Leo told himself, "I'm being foolish. Whether Princess Stephanie has any descendants or not, I would know best. If your Highness knew, she would surely laugh at me, right?" Suddenly, a voice called out, "Sir Leo, why are you standing here?" Leo turned around and smiled. "Good morning, Teacher Nizio. I just punished 2 new students." As the purple-haired man walked towards him, "So soon there are troublemakers? This year's new students are truly a mix of hidden dragons and crouching tigers." Then Teacher Nizio showed Leo a book, his face full of excitement. "Look, this is the chess game I recorded from the welcoming match. A truly wonderful victory." Nizio thought to himself, not at all like those mischievous brats. As soon as he saw what was in the book, Leo's eyes lit up with surprise. This board position is exactly like Princess Stephanie's. At this thought, his hand trembled uncontrollably. So Leo immediately asked insistently, "Who won this game?" Faced with his urgency, Nizio replied, flustered, "It was a child named Sylvia." As soon as Nizio finished speaking, Sylvia's image unconsciously appeared in Leo's mind, along with her clear voice when she called his name, Leo. This made Leo very puzzled. Sylvia, even if they were blood relatives, they couldn't be so similar. The more he thought, the more confused he became, trying to find if there was a special connection between Sylvia and Stephanie. But then Leo denied it to himself. I must be overthinking things. Such an absurd thing can't happen in this world. Seeing his strange expression, Teacher Nizio called out worriedly, "Sir Leo, what's wrong?" Leo shook his head slightly, his eyes a little sad as he replied, "It's nothing, just..." Then he suddenly made a request to Teacher Nizio. "Any news about that child Sylvia in the future, please let me know." Nizio replied, "Yes, sir." Nizio stared blankly at Leo's retreating back with a confused look. Does Sir Leo like students who can play chess that much? And at this moment, Leo was lost in old memories. He remembered the times he was with Stephanie. Leo would massage her, and she would say comfortably, just the right pressure. As expected, in every aspect, you are the most useful. Even if I were to die one day, I would probably find a way to take you with me to heaven. At that time, he would joyfully reply, "It would be my honor, my liege." But now, only a lonely Leo was left with his thoughts. Perhaps you are not in heaven but have been reborn into the mortal world, Princess Stephanie. Please forgive the self-deceiving fantasy of a coward. Please forgive me for still hoping even now that you left behind some bloodline or a trace of yourself in this world. The next day, in the garden, Stuart was diligently sweeping. Suddenly, a familiar figure appeared, standing in front of him and calling out loudly, "Hey!" As soon as he saw Sylvia, Stuart gritted his teeth and turned away, ignoring her cheerful greeting. Then he continued to focus on his cleaning. But the quiet didn't last long. Sylvia jumped out in front of Stuart again, making him extremely angry. Stuart showed his annoyance, even using the broom to shoo Sylvia away. "Get out of my way, I don't want to see you." Seeing this, Sylvia quickly jumped up, dodging a blow from Stuart. Then she very cheerfully and conveniently stepped on Stuart's broom. Stuart's expression was not friendly. He wondered in confusion, "What does this kid eat to be so heavy?" Sylvia, with a bright smile, said, "You don't need to worry about the steward's matter. What you should be concerned about is Duke Wellington. And in this world, no one understands Wellington's false front better than I do. Wellington came from a commoner background, lacking power and money. That is his fatal weakness. He could even sacrifice his own son, just to exchange for the support of his wife's family. Wellington sent people here for only one purpose. If I say that I can make those stewards respect you, even make Duke Wellington pay attention to you, would you still not want to see my face?" After hearing these words from Sylvia, Stuart was extremely surprised. "What?" Sylvia looked up with her big round eyes, her voice sweet. "You want your father to acknowledge you." Hearing that, Stuart clenched his fists, his heart thumping so loudly it could be heard. He nervously uttered, At this moment, every word Sylvia spoke was like a dark contract enveloping Stuart. "Tell me what you want, and I will make it happen for you." Faced with such temptations, Stuart just gritted his teeth and tried to restrain himself, despite his heart pounding relentlessly. Right after, he decisively yanked the broom away, causing Sylvia to lose her balance. Sylvia fell to the ground. She grimaced. "Ouch, what are you doing?" Before she could recover, Stuart was already trying to push her away with the broom. "What I want is for you to stay away from me." Sylvia was choked by a cloud of dust. Stuart warned coldly, "My father has always cared for me. I also want to give him a good gift. You don't need to trouble yourself." Hearing that, Sylvia exclaimed in surprise, "A gift?" In her thoughts, this little brat can actually think of a gift that the powerful Wellington would want? Could it be, as I thought, he has seen through Wellington's purpose in sending people here and wants to help Wellington? Faced with Sylvia's bewilderment, Stuart decisively declared, "It's none of your business," and then unceremoniously threw the broom at her. Sylvia fumbled to catch the broom. At this moment, she realized with alarm, "No, if I let him easily get close to Wellington, what will happen to my plan? I have to think of something." After all that, Stuart left Sylvia alone in the flower garden with the words, "You just clean your part of the flower garden well." Sylvia instinctively turned her head back, her expression a bit worried as she saw the desolate scene behind her. Just then Leo called out, "Student Sylvia, have you finished cleaning the flower garden?" Hearing that, Sylvia thought, "I'm screwed." That night at the Academy's girls' dormitory, Sylvia lay on her bed in the warm room with Caroline enthusiastically giving her a massage. Yes, right there. That's the sorest spot." Sylvia breathed out comfortably. Your skills, though not as good as Leo's, are still..." Caroline sat by the bed, looking worriedly at her grimacing friend. "Teacher Leo is too strict, making you clean the whole flower garden on your first day of school. You must be so tired. What about tomorrow's classes?" Hearing that, Sylvia covered her face with a pillow. "Don't talk about it." Then she deliberately changed the subject. "What classes are there tomorrow?" she asked, thinking idly. "The kindergarten curriculum at this country academy, I could pass with my eyes closed." So Caroline enthusiastically listed the subjects for tomorrow. "Our academy always aims to cultivate character with a rich curriculum. Tomorrow we have poetry, painting, and horse riding." Caroline smiled brightly, her hands clasped in excitement. Especially painting. It's one of the Academy's famous subjects. Every year there's a student art exhibition. The winner gets a badge. Back in the day, Grand Duke Wellington also became famous from here. Hearing this, Sylvia was captivated, her eyes wide with excitement as she thought, Wellington! Art exhibition! Immediately, an image of a black-haired young man sitting alone in a room, his eyes focused on an easel, completely absorbed, appeared in Sylvia's mind. She immediately sat up, her face excited as she thought, That's right! How could I forget about this? Meanwhile, Caroline was completely bewildered. That year, the Academy's art exhibition had the 4 seasons as its theme. Among the works of Spring Flowers and Winter Snow, Wellington's Autumn Wind on the Tree stood out, attracting the attention of a major figure. It was the Minister of Finance who had come to investigate. He asked Wellington the meaning of the painting. It was clearly a lie, yet why was it praised? At that time, Stuart sat alone, his pensive gaze replying, Your Excellency, this is my grandfather. He worked hard farming, regardless of wind and rain, but a year's harvest was meager, just enough to pay taxes. Autumn is the season of harvest, but it is also the season of the farmer's worries. The Minister of Finance greatly admired Wellington's talent for architectural drawing and took the painting back to the imperial capital, petitioning the emperor to reduce agricultural taxes. Thus, Wellington became famous throughout the imperial capital and smoothly entered the academy to study. Thinking of this, Sylvia suddenly became suspicious. Wait, that brat couldn't have figured out Wellington's purpose, could he? He wouldn't be trying to imitate him, would he? What a clueless child. At the same time, in the boys' dormitory, a pair of hands was carefully opening a box containing sparkling paint pots. Stuart sat on a chair, carefully holding the small box in his hands, his face full of thoughts. When he was a child, his mother had held him up to a large landscape painting hanging prominently in a lavish room, saying, Baby, this is what made your father famous. You have to be as good as him in the future. At that time, little Stuart with his big round eyes looked up, his expression full of curiosity. He eagerly looked at the painting and called out, Ah, ah! Back in the present, Stuart's face was pensive and disappointed. Even the person from the imperial capital didn't bring the news I wanted. Only by being in the place where he once was, simulating everything he once did, using the same methods as him, can I achieve such an honor. Only then can I convince myself that I share the same blood as him. Stuart sat alone by the window at night, his sad eyes comforting himself. I am also his son. The next morning, everyone had started their painting class. The teacher walked around the class with her usual long-winded speech. Although everyone has a certain artistic foundation and wants to strive for the upcoming bronze medal, you can't be hasty now. Meanwhile, Sylvia was looking left and right, searching for something. A moment later, Sylvia, with a radiant face, was looking towards Stuart, who was painting, and she exclaimed excitedly, Found him! While the teacher was engrossed in her lecture, Sylvia tiptoed over to Stuart. At this moment, Stuart was focused on his painting. Sylvia stood beside him, watching, and sighed to herself, just as I thought. Then she suddenly asked, What are you painting? And even deliberately snatched Stuart's painting. Beneath the brilliant painting, there was a sketch of an elegant man with the words, To Father, written above. At this, Stuart was completely enraged and shouted, What are you doing? Sylvia ignored Stuart and kept looking at the painting. To Father, James Wellington. To Father. Sylvia began to deliberately mock Stuart. You really do want to imitate Wellington to shine in the art exhibition. Don't tell me you're planning to give this painting to Wellington. As she spoke, she thought, he thinks he can use a painting to show off his steadfastness and talent. Does he really think it's so easy for someone with a discerning eye to spot his resemblance to Wellington? Or does this kid think that following in his father's footsteps will make his father love him more? Seeing this, Stuart quickly stood in front of the painting, his face a little anxious as he retorted, "This has nothing to do with you." Even the teacher noticed Sylvia's disrespectful words and scolded her. "Sylvia, be quiet. You are not allowed to insult Duke Wellington." Everyone around also started whispering. "Is she crazy? What is she saying?" Despite this, Sylvia continued to tease Stuart. "Stop dreaming, Stuart. Do you think he truly loves painting, or that he's just a poet lost in memories?" Witnessing this scene, Caroline also felt very bewildered. She choked out, "Sylvia!" Sylvia continued to run around the room, with Stuart chasing her until he fell. Even so, Sylvia kept saying, "He has no such soft thoughts. He is nothing but schemes and plots. Stop wasting your effort." Hearing these words, the teacher's face turned pale. She held out her hands to stop her. "Shut up! Stop that crazy talk right now." At this point, Stuart's steps quickened. He quickly snatched back the painting, his voice extremely annoyed as he shouted, "That's enough." "What do you know? This is just unbelievable." With that, Stuart angrily turned and left, leaving Sylvia standing motionless, watching him go. Behind her, the teacher was shouting, "Sylvia, come with me to the office. You need to reflect on your behavior." In fact, at this moment, Sylvia had her own thoughts as she saw Stuart's decisiveness. "Although it's painful, only strong medicine will make you see reality, Stuart." Meanwhile, in a corner of the classroom, two boys watched Sylvia and began to plot. So scary. I've never seen Sir Stuart so angry. It seems we should help Sir Stuart teach that fool a lesson. Time passed quickly. The sky had turned to dusk. Sylvia and the two boys were standing in a hallway. One boy stood in front of Sylvia and said, "Fool, ahem, Sylvia, Teacher Jerome wants you to go to the empty classroom on the 4th floor." Sylvia asked, puzzled, "Teacher Jerome?" The boy behind him also chimed in. Yes. Ever since you won that chess game, hasn't he taken a liking to you?" The brown-haired boy urged her. "Hurry up! Don't keep the teacher waiting." Sylvia looked at them both with suspicion. Aren't these Stuart's lackeys? They must be here to get revenge for their big brother. Then she smiled confidently. How interesting. If I take this opportunity to play the victim, I might just be able to make Stuart fall into my trap. A little while later, the three of them had arrived at a pitch-dark room. Sylvia looked inside nervously. Why is it so dark? Is Teacher Jerome really here? At that moment, the two boys leaned close to her face, both with mischievous smiles. Immediately after, a hand pushed Sylvia inside. Pushed unexpectedly, Sylvia fell down, unable to react. Then came the cold sound of a door slamming shut. Sylvia was trapped, her face showing fear and anger. What do you want to do? Let me out! The brown-haired boy, while locking the door, said mockingly, Aren't you so tough? The purple-haired boy also laughed gleefully. Still daring to oppose Sir Stuart. You even dared to mock Duke Wellington. What? Scared now? The two boys stood before the door, one of them saying, When you're ready to bow your head and apologize to Sir Stuart, then we'll let you out. From behind the door came Sylvia's cries, No, it's so dark in here, let me out! Then the two of them left, leaving behind the wooden door that Sylvia was pounding on continuously. Help! Is anyone there? I'm scared! Only Sylvia's wide, worried eyes could be seen. This place is so scary. But in reality, it was all an act. Right now, she was actually quite relaxed, saying, I beg you, please let me out. Sylvia was calculating. I realized early on that they were up to no good, but to think they'd pull such a stupid trick. I originally intended to play along to have Jerome witness me being miserably bullied. From there, I would force Stuart to accept my offer. She had even imagined how tormented Stuart would be when she caught his two puppets and said with a triumphant laugh, Bullying a classmate violates school rules and will result in a deduction of bronze badges. But this outcome could only make her pout and complain. But just locking me up like this is too childish. Then a mischievous thought flashed through Sylvia's mind. Maybe I should give myself a few injuries. If I delay any longer, Caroline will go find Teacher Jerome to report me missing, just as planned. Let's see. What kind of tragedy should Teacher Jerome witness? Just as Sylvia predicted, Caroline was running frantically down the long corridor, her face panicked as she called, "Teacher Jerome! Teacher Jerome!" Suddenly, she bumped into someone. Caroline held her head and quickly apologized. "I'm sorry, Sir Leo." Seeing the girl's urgency, Leo asked, "It's all right. What's the matter? Why are you in such a panic?" Caroline's eyes were wide with worry, her face showing clear fear. "My roommate, Sylvia, she's disappeared." Hearing this, Leo's expression became thoughtful. "Sylvia? The little girl who has a shadow of her Highness?" Thinking this, he asked, "What happened? When did you notice she was missing?" So Caroline explained in a fluster, "A few days ago, Sylvia told me that she didn't like some people who didn't like her and that they might do something bad. If she didn't come back on time after class, she told me to go find Teacher Jerome. It's now been 5 hours past the time she usually returns to the dorm." After hearing Caroline's account, Leo decided, "I will go find her right away. You can go back and wait. I will inform the guard team to search as well." Caroline obediently replied, "Yes, sir." He immediately ran to the classroom building. Leo urgently tried to open the door, but he couldn't open it no matter how hard he tried, so Leo decided to kick the door down and burst in. He burst into a dark room, calling out loudly, "Sylvia!" At this moment, Leo was extremely worried. It was already dark. It was so late. She must be terrified. She might even be, "Damn it, I shouldn't have done that." The more he thought, the more he blamed himself. He sorrowfully recalled old memories. If only I hadn't been tricked away back then. If only I had been sharper and realized their plot. If only I had arrived a little earlier. But there are no if-onlys in this world. In the end, Her Highness still died. Leo clutched his heart, his soul in agony. Can I truly never save the people I want to save? Then suddenly he heard a sound. Leo immediately looked towards the room that was still lit. So Leo quickly ran in that direction. Leo anxiously knocked on the door, calling, "Sylvia, is that you? Are you in there?" Hearing his voice, Sylvia immediately felt extremely tense. She thought to herself in surprise, "Leo? Didn't I tell Caroline to go find Jerome? Why is it Leo who came? Leo is not easily fooled." Outside, Leo kept reassuring Sylvia, "Don't be afraid, I'll get you out right away." He signaled, "Take a step back." On Sylvia's side, she thought about her recent decision, wiping off what she had prepared for Jerome to see. Now, hearing Leo's intention, Sylvia felt regret. What is he planning to do? What's the use of you coming now? I had already planned to put on a pitiful act and get myself out. If I had known, I wouldn't have wiped the stuff off my face. Immediately, a loud cracking sound was heard. The door was hacked to pieces by Leo. Then he proudly sheathed his sword, much to Sylvia's astonishment. Leo walked up to Sylvia, smiling in relief. "That's great, you're okay." Leo looked at her gently, placing a hand lightly on her arm and said, "I finally saved the person I wanted to save." Hearing this, Sylvia looked up at him, her eyes slightly surprised. "The person you wanted to save?" But suddenly Leo's grip tightened, making Sylvia cry out in pain. "Leo, that hurts." Reactively, she quickly flung his hand away, but in doing so, she accidentally dropped the weapon she had just hidden. Seeing something had fallen, Leo curiously looked over. He carefully picked it up. This is... Seeing that Sylvia was so scared she froze. Leo curiously observed the object in his hand. Then he accidentally pulled the crossbow string taut. And as a result, the bolt in the crossbow was immediately fired. The bolt flew up and created a large crack in the ceiling. Leo looked at Sylvia with a stern, fatherly expression and asked, "A crossbow?" Sylvia smiled innocently, waving her hands in denial. "It's just a toy." But Leo, still full of suspicion, replied, "Do you think I'd believe that?" He looked down at the crossbow in his hand. and asked Sylvia in a low voice. This crossbow has enough piercing power to break the lock on the school door. This isn't something a child your age should have. Even the children of nobles here would find it hard to obtain. You had this prepared long ago. You could have left at any time, so why didn't you? Could it be that this crossbow wasn't for opening the lock, but for taking revenge on those who bullied you? Do they bully you that often? Bombarded by a series of questions from Leo, Sylvia fell into complete despair. I knew it. Leo is not easily fooled. Nevertheless, she still tried to find an excuse. This is a novel gift that my father brought back from the Golo Empire for my older brother. I just secretly took it out to scare them. I didn't intend to actually use it. In fact, I don't even know how to use it. This thing is very precious. It can't be used recklessly. As she spoke, she patted his shoulder. How can a powerful weapon be used just for opening a lock? This is just like you, Lord Leo. Wasting your talent just to be a guard here. If I were your master, I would have died of heartbreak. Talent is not something to be wasted. The moment Sylvia said these words, Leo seemed to see the image of Stephanie in her small figure. He froze for a long moment, then softly called out, "Is it you?" Agitated, Leo immediately pulled Sylvia into his arms. "Your Highness!" Leo's sudden action moved Sylvia a little. Leo's embrace had a familiar scent, but then she suddenly realized. Wait, what did he just say? So she immediately pushed Leo away. Sylvia asked in alarm, "What did you just call me?" Sylvia looked at Leo in confusion. He called me Stephanie. Did he figure it out? Just thinking about it, Sylvia could already imagine the scene of Leo raising his hands and cheering. "Welcome, Her Highness Princess Stephanie. Princess Stephanie has been reborn. Her Highness Princess Stephanie, Your Highness, I knew you would be all right." She held her head, her face filled with panic. No, absolutely not. Leo is a rigid person, if by any chance he finds out I'm still alive. If it's not handled well, it will ruin everything. So Sylvia switched to feigning ignorance, starting to talk nonsense to fool Leo. "What, Your Highness? Sylvia is not a highness. Sylvia is a child." At this moment, Leo slowly raised his head, his eyes filled with contemplation, and he immediately came back to his senses. His face tinged with sorrow, he said, "That's right, you're just a child." Then he held out his hand and called, "Let's go, I'll take you back." So Sylvia held Leo's hand tightly. In Sylvia's thoughts, "I'm sorry, Leo, please wait for me a little longer. Now is not the best time for us to reunite." The next day in class, the students started whispering to each other about Sylvia. Last night, the entire guard team was dispatched. They were looking for her for a long time. A curious friend asked, "Was it Stuart?" But the other girl stopped her. "Don't say any more." Meanwhile, two others were listening to the gossip with great satisfaction. Just then, Sylvia walked in, pushing the door open with an imposing aura. The classroom immediately fell silent. The two culprits quickly turned their heads away, pretending to know nothing. Sylvia returned to her seat and calmly dipped her brush to wash it, just like any other day. Seeing this, the two boys became smug. "I told you that girl wouldn't dare do anything. She's just from a nouveau riche family. How could she possibly confront nobles like us?" The other boy chimed in. That's right. At the same time, Sylvia silently picked up a small bucket and walked towards them. The two boys were laughing gleefully. "If we'd known, we should have locked her up in a more deserted place." At that exact moment, Sylvia poured the bucket of water right on one of them. The blonde boy's eyes widened, his face surprised as he got wet, his mouth letting out a dazed, "Ah!" Sylvia, on the other hand, smiled brightly, holding the small bucket with both hands. "This is a small return gift." The two boys stepped back, startled. "What are you doing?" Seeing them like that, Sylvia coldly tossed the bucket aside and walked towards them. She calmly replied, "Nothing at all." The purple-haired boy looked up, surprised to see Sylvia about to grab another bucket. He looked horrified, while Sylvia smiled mischievously. just to show you whether the nouveau riche dares to confront nobles or not." So he ran away in a panic, while Sylvia angrily chased after him with a bucket of water. "Don't run! Weren't you so tough when you locked me in the classroom?" Outside the classroom, Stuart was also confused seeing the chaos inside. "You're crazy! You're a lunatic!" Sylvia cheerfully lifted the bucket, splashing water everywhere, while the boy screamed repeatedly, "Help!" He hurriedly ran away, trying to hide behind a painting, but Sylvia was determined to chase him. Then she threw the whole bucket of water at the boy. The purple-haired boy dropped to the ground, immediately ducking behind the painting to avoid the splashing water. A moment later, he looked at a portrait and screamed in horror. This is Lord Stuart's painting." Sylvia also froze, dropping the bucket. At this moment, she fell into complete despair. Why did I have to run into him? Damn it! Is it too late to salvage this? Just then, a cold voice spoke, making Sylvia even more frightened. "It's you again!" As soon as she saw Stuart, Sylvia uttered with a fearful expression, "Lord Stuart." The other children also cowered, as if under some invisible pressure. Sylvia looked up at the person opposite her, her expression extremely timid. Suddenly, Stuart swung his arm with all his might as if to teach Sylvia a lesson. To Sylvia's surprise, Stuart hit the painting behind her instead. He pulled the painting out of its frame, his voice restrained. "I know they provoked you first, so I won't hold it against you this time. But from now on, stay the hell away from me." After saying that, Stuart silently turned and walked away. Stuart's whole body suddenly trembled as he forced himself to say, "Get out of my sight." Seeing this, Sylvia was also quite surprised. She immediately grabbed Stuart's arm. Stuart, with an angry face, yelled, "Didn't I tell you to stay away?" Sylvia was holding his hand, but when she saw Stuart's tears, she was completely astonished. Is he crying? How did I make him cry? Sylvia smiled gently and said reassuringly, "Trust me, even if it's stained, your painting can still win first prize." But Stuart quickly pulled his hand back, saying in a sulky tone, "So what? A painting like this can no longer be given to my father." Seeing this, Sylvia signaled for him to come closer and whispered, "As the son of Wellington, if you just say the word, the steward will agree to your request to take the painting to your father. The management won't pay any attention to the painting itself." However, Stuart had no faith in her advice. He replied despondently. Seeing that, Sylvia smiled slyly and said, "If I win, you have to agree to my previous proposal." Hearing this, Stuart looked annoyed and thought to himself while looking at Sylvia, "Is she talking about helping me get my father's attention? What a joke." Despite thinking this, he accepted her challenge. "Ha! Let's talk after you've won." Sylvia's reply was a confident declaration. "Don't worry, I will definitely win." At the competition, two people were looking at a large painting hanging on the wall. One of them commented that the skill level of this year's new students was very high. The other person also looked pleased. Indeed, it's truly delightful. The prominent item at the competition was the winner's medal. And below a large painting adorned with the first prize medal, a group of people were gathered. One of them sighed, "But the strongest is still Lord Stuart." The teacher smiled radiantly, continuously praising, "Young Master Stuart's work this time used a very avant-garde method of expression. Winning first prize in the competition is completely deserved. Over the past period, I have been teaching young Master Stuart." Facing her enthusiasm, Steward Benson replied nonchalantly, "I know, I will relay your contributions to the Grand Duke." Hearing this, the teacher thanked him profusely. "Thank you, my lord. This is truly—" Meanwhile, Mr. Benson coldly walked away. He instructed his subordinates, "We've seen the art competition, we can just file a report on it when we get back. Next, we must focus on the main business." A man bowing his head replied, "There are still no leads on that matter." Mr. Benson, with a stern expression, looked at another man and asked, "There are so many nobles and wealthy people here. Why has no one signed a cooperation agreement?" The man replied fearfully, "Actually, There are interested parties, but without a proper pretext, it's not an easy thing to do. So he angrily yelled at them, "What's the use of you all? How is it handled every year?" The men answered meekly, "There was an incident recently. The inspections are stricter this year. We've thought of every possible way." At this time, Sylvia had appeared at some point and was silently observing them. She thought with amusement, "They really are here for the matter I was thinking of." Then Sylvia glanced over at Stuart, secretly calculating, "Kid, our chance has arrived." Meanwhile, Stuart had walked up to face Benson. He hesitantly proposed, "Mr. Benson, I want to give this first prize painting to my father. Could you please take it back for me?" Benson looked at Stuart's prize-winning painting and said thoughtfully, "That painting?" Seeing his hesitant attitude, Stuart's expression grew more tense. He clenched his fists and asked, "What? Is it not suitable?" To Stuart's anticipation, he just replied perfunctorily, "It's very suitable. Young Master Stuart truly couldn't have a more wonderful piece." Then he turned to his subordinate and asked, "It's a bit big. Is there room in the carriage on the way back?" The man replied, "There's still a little space. It should just fit." After the exchange, Mr. Benson smiled and said to Stuart, "That's great, young master. We will bring your thoughtful gift back to Lord Wellington." Faced with their perfunctory attitude, Stuart, though disappointed, could only obediently reply, "Yes." He stood silently watching their retreating figures with an unwilling expression.